Okay, that might be a little overly simplified, so let me explain. If you watch my last video, you'll know that I hit the jackpot on a sub $1,500 round-trip business class ticket on Air France and KLM. For those of you who don't know, KLM is the Dutch flag carrier and their home base is Amsterdam. And so that's where we find ourselves on this lovely afternoon in August, cruising the canals with a tour company called Those Damn Boat Guys. Very clever. We came in from Paris a couple days ago on the Thalys, which is a high-speed rail line owned by Eurostar. European trains are no joke. It took us just under 3.5 hours to get from Paris to Amsterdam. This thing absolutely hauls. According to my phone, we were traveling at like 185 miles an hour. Just to put that in perspective, if we had wings, we'd be flying right now. So shout out Thalys for getting us to Amsterdam in style. Definitely beat driving or flying in my opinion. Once we had a couple days to properly enjoy Amsterdam, it was time to hitch a ride back to Toronto on the KLM 777. We've just arrived at the airport after a roughly 40-minute taxi from the center of Amsterdam. And to be honest, I was shocked. 2022 was the year of the staffing shortage, and European airports just weren't equipped to handle post-COVID demand. Or at least we had been told. The scene here at Amsterdam Airport suggests otherwise, and I'm certainly not complaining. So starting in June, the airport implemented a passenger cap of 67.5k passengers per day, which was bumped to 72.5k in August. For those of you finance nerds out there, that 72,500 run rates to 26.5 million passengers per year. For perspective, pre-pandemic, Amsterdam was handling 72 million passengers per year, or almost 200,000 per day. Now, my view is that the demand is there to hit or exceed the 2019 numbers. It's just a matter of finding workers, especially security officers and cleaners, to handle traffic during peak periods. Anyways, at this point we had breezed through security and it's approximately 9 a.m. and our flight boards at 10:30. That gives us plenty of time to check out KLM's flagship lounge. I went out of my way to get footage galore at the lounge, which, by the way, was recently renovated and is one of the most gorgeous spaces I've ever stepped foot in. But we had a minor technical snafu and I ended up losing all the footage from my GoPro. Kinda sad, but this isn't technically a lounge review, so let me just hit the highlights. The place is 73,000 square feet, spans 2 levels, and is infused with KLM brand elements such as the famous Delft blue houses and the Delft tiles they feature in their safety video. But, by far the best feature, in my opinion, is the open-air observation deck on the second floor, which affords excellent views of the sea of SkyTeam planes out on the apron. Anyways, a really good lounge. Would highly recommend stopping by if your ticket gives you access. You can also purchase a day pass for 65 euros, which is a bit steep in my opinion, but worth considering if you have multiple hours to kill and want a solid place to eat, work, or relax. Alright, time to hit up the E-Pier, which is where we find Bravo Quebec Foxtrot, an 18-year-old Boeing 777-200ER that's been with KLM her entire life. I love this footage from Aquino 33 where you can see she also sports the KLM Asia livery.
time to board the aircraft, please come forward to the documentation.
Hi, how are you?
It's around the corner.
Great. Do you mind if I film on board? Not people, but...
Yes, that's okay.
Yeah, thank you. Once on board, we turned right to find KLM's slightly outdated, but still classy, business cabin. The cabin is arranged in a 2-2-2 configuration, fairly tight by today's standards and not ideal since not everyone gets direct aisle access, but I found these perfectly comfortable for a daytime flight. I was in seat 1A, which is a bulkhead window seat with a bigger footwell since there's no one in front of you. I didn't have direct aisle access, but my seatmate was very gracious and allowed me to get up and stretch my legs exactly once during the flight. Meanwhile, over in 1D and 1G, it was all smiles, even though they didn't take advantage of the pre-departure champagne. Before we knew it, it was time to get on our way. We pushed back on time at 11:10 a.m. So, good news, bad news type of situation. Good news is we got crystal clear skies, excellent day for plane spotting, and a nice variety of wide bodies to spot on our taxi out to the runway. Bad news is our departure runway happens to be 5 kilometers from the terminal, so our taxi took almost 40 minutes, even though there wasn't any congestion to be had. The so-called Polderbaan runway, yes, it's so famous it has a name, was opened in 2003 as Amsterdam's 6th runway. Main reason it's so far is because of space constraints near the existing runway complex. Fun fact, it also has its own dedicated control tower. According to the flight map, our flying time today would be approximately 7 hours and 10 minutes at a cruising altitude of 38,000 feet. Our route took us over the southern tip of Greenland, which afforded some pretty spectacular views. More on that later. So service started as it should start, with the hot towel, and being in row 1, I can assure you they were still hot when they arrived. Next up came the drink service, and I stuck with good old H2O, given I wanted to get some work done later in the flight. Then came the tried and true warm nuts, a staple of any business class meal service. This particular concoction consisted of almonds, walnuts, cashews, and pecans, which represent 4 of the top 5 healthiest nuts according to Healthline. Moving on to course 2, we find that most passengers would have a choice between the pickled chili watermelon topped with burrata yellow tomato and a virgin Bloody Mary, or a Mediterranean yellow pepper soup. However, if you saw my last video, you'd know I'm one of those whack jobs who's gluten-free by choice, so we pre-ordered a gluten-free meal. So my appetizer was some sort of shrimp accompanied by a mixed green salad and a gluten-free cracker. Simple yet tasty. So my main course came out and it was, surprise surprise, some variation of chicken, rice, and vegetables. Not very creative, but exactly what I was looking for. Meanwhile, Mr. 1C went with the quote-unquote selection of delicacies, which was kind of a deconstructed curry. I don't think he was necessarily blown away by it, but I didn't hear him complain about it either. And for the grand finale of meal service number 1 is this fruit plate, which was dominated by oranges with a couple apple slices and blueberries sprinkled in there. Not gonna lie, it was a little bit hard to pass up the lemon pistachio cake, but the pre-arrival meal, as you'll see, will be a little more of an indulgence. In the meantime, let's take a quick walk. One of the best things about wide bodies is that there are 2 aisles, which means you can do laps instead of just walking up and down the same aisle. Economy class is pretty full today, and KLM uses the dense 3-4-3 configuration, but legroom is fair at 31 inches, and it looked like the seats had all the features you'd expect out of a modern economy seat. IFE screen, charging port, storage options, adjustable headrests, and decent recline. Also, this isn't necessarily specific to economy, but if you're flying with young kiddos, KLM's got you covered. Travel site Trips and Giggles reports that as of 2014, KLM is offering a kids playset called Bluey on select intercontinental flights to and from Amsterdam. Since it probably isn't socially acceptable for me to request one of those at age 26, I'll have to find other ways to occupy myself for the rest of the flight. I guess we can start with getting some bubbly, and not the alcoholic kind. KLM's got a pretty nice snack setup between business class cabins that is sure to satisfy most in-flight cravings. After stuffing our face with stroop waffles and cheese crackers, the next stop is, of course, the lavatory, which is a standard size, but decked out in KLM colors and well stocked with various lotions and potions. But, most importantly, it was kept pretty clean throughout the flight, and I even witnessed a couple passengers enter the loo in their socks. Anyways, time for a quick mid-flight position update. Remember how I said our route would take us over Greenland? Well, here we are. A couple hours before landing, I decided to order some herbal tea. I try to order tea between meals on most long-haul flights, not necessarily because I'm a tea drinker, but because I'm kind of curious how the airline will present it. For example, on British Airways, they pull out all the stops with their signature afternoon tea service, whereas on American, you'd be lucky to get your tea in a real mug. KLM's take on tea was somewhere in between. I got a mug and a chocolate, but no carefully curated selection of tea cakes and scones presented on a bi-level display. Alright, now last up, here's a quick montage of the pre-arrival meal. It was pretty basic given I had ordered the gluten-free meal, but again, I feel like your expectations have to be a bit lower in general when you order any special meal.
Welkom in Toronto, blijf alsjeblieft nog even zitten.
Alright, let's wrap this thing up before it becomes another 20-minute video. While we're deplaning here, I'm going to grade KLM on their hard product, which I'll define as basically the seat in the cabin, and their soft product, which I'll define as the airport experience, food, amenities, in-flight service, and other intangibles. Now, again, it's important to put things in context here. I paid under $1,500 USD for this round-trip ticket in business class. At that price point, I would expect an Icelandair-esque or Norse Atlantic-esque experience, where flying up front means you get a wider leather recliner seat with more padding and more recline, but no flatbed, and certainly more bare-bones service. So with that in mind, I'd give KLM's hard product a solid B+. It's certainly not cutting edge, and not everyone has direct aisle access, but it is a flatbed and the seat is more full-featured than the basic recliner. The plane itself was also in solid condition for being almost 2 decades old. But the soft product is where KLM really stood out. Every staff member we encountered, from check-in to the lounge to onboard the plane, was polite, friendly, and professional. It's really hard to differentiate as an airline these days, but with KLM there seems to be something exciting and unique at every corner. From an absolute emporium of a lounge to the clog-shaped salt and pepper shakers to the iconic porcelain Dutch house that's given out as a parting gift at the end of the flight. I will say though, I did get blue fatigue. I was exposed to so much blue that day that I pretty much forgot any other color existed. Anyways, A+ from me on the soft product. KLM truly is a different animal and a great purveyor of Dutch culture, values, and hospitality. And that's a wrap. Thank you so much for joining me, and if you did enjoy it, please don't forget to like and subscribe. So long from Toronto.